Welcome back to another episode of Something That Should Be Talked About, where we talk about some things that should be talked about. I'm your host, DJ Shabak, and today I want to be honest with you. Something that I've been wanting to get off my chest for a long time. And honestly, it dates back to ever since I was a little kid, like very small. Um, some people may say it's not a big deal, while others they see that it's a real concern, and some people think I need to go to therapy because of it. But I I don't like talking on the phone. Yeah. Um, I hate talking on the phone, honestly. Um, you may say that that's a bad thing. Someone who may be in their 30s and over may say, see, that's what's wrong with this generation. No one likes to talk on the phone. But the thing about it, honestly, it's not even a generational thing. I've realized, like, my mother, she's the same way. I've realized a lot of older people are the same way. There is this sense of anxiety that comes when I get a phone call from someone that's beyond my mother and father. Even them sometimes. I'm like, gotta take a deep breath. But there's a sense of anxiety that comes across when a friend, someone that I'm getting to know, whether it's a bro or a girl that I'm getting to know, when they call, whether it's a text, whether it's a phone call or video chat, that I'm like, yeah, that, like that Jay-Z emoji. I said I said emoji. That JG GIF. But my point here is I don't like talking on the phone. And do we need to? Honestly, I feel like this is something that we should talk about, because why do I need to talk on the phone with you? Now, granted, of course, listen, I'm not oblivious, okay? Even when I was in a relationship, my ex, she was like, you never liked talking on the phone with me. I didn't. And the reason why is because I'm more of if we're in person, I'm all in. When we're not, I want to be to myself. I'm an ambivert. So I can be to myself and I can be around others. Now, granted, it depends on the scenario on which one I am, more so introverted or extroverted. But I don't mind being to myself when I'm by myself. And she would tell me, and different other people be like, well, I just want to talk to you while I'm in the car driving. Only time when I have had the desire to talk to someone while I'm in the car driving is because I actually wanted to get something off my chest. I wanted to vent, or it was a long trip and I was trying to stay awake. So they'd be like, hey, can I call you real quick? I'm like, what's up? Can I just call you? I'm like, what's up? Dude, I can't. I'm like, what's up? I'm also, in business. So oftentimes I do have to talk on the phone with my clients, especially if I'm trying to convince them to go with a particular package, or, we have to get clarity on what the vision is for a project. But I really don't like it. I am the type of person that, hey, if we can text it out or if we can just email, cool. But again, like I said, I have to learn with business is that sometimes it's better for clarity. And the same with friendships. There's some certain topics or conversations that are best over the phone instead of text. While sometimes I just want to text it out. One of the reasons why I love texting is because I'm able to go about my day. Like right now, it's in the middle of it's in the middle of the day and I am working. So if someone was to call me, I'm like, hello? Yeah, I'm kind of recording right now. Oh, I don't mean to disturb you. Yeah, you are. Okay. Whereas I could shoot them a text real quick, and then be about my day. 10 minutes later, shoot them another text. And so that's how I communicate. Now, don't get me wrong. I do love being personable, which is why I do this. I love sending voice memos. My dad, he got me into doing it. He's visually impaired. So for him, it's easier to send a voice memo than to text. Whereas for me, I realize there's something about it, especially when you're talking to a woman. There's something about a voice memo that keeps it personal. that allows you to have that kind of on the phone conversation without having to be, so what you doing? You don't have to have that awkward pause. You're able to kind of think of what you want to say, think of what you want to ask, what conversation you want to spark up, and then record. And you're not pressed upon doing it quickly. You have a little second to think about it, and you're able to go about your day, multitask. Granted, this is me. So well, it's not real question, but my question would be, do you like talking on the phone? Like, are you one of those people? You know, if so, put a one in the chat. But I am not. I'm not. Yeah. There's nothing. Yeah. No. Now, if I'm getting to know a girl, right? This is the only reason why I probably would hop on the phone. If I'm talking to a girl and I'm like, man, texting and then voice memo, I'm like, man, I really want to go out with her. I really want to take her out type thing. Then I'll probably initiate to do a video chat. Be like, hey, let's FaceTime. Now, I'm Team Samsung, so that's why I said video chat. Okay, never ever come into the iPhone side ever. Okay, but I would be like, hey, let's video chat and see how we vibe on video chat, right? That's granted if I'm liking the girl. Now, if I don't like her or whatever, I'm still trying to figure out, do I like her? I'm not prone to want to do the video chat or phone call, Now, what gets me is people who are just meeting you. Like, I just slid into your DM. We just started talking about business. We just met. And they be like trying to video chat you or call you. I'm like, yo, whoa now. Okay, you're getting a little ahead of yourself now, buddy. We need to bring it back in, all right? I'm like, man, nah, I'm not about to answer it. I'm like, people who get the privilege of calling me, video chatting me out the blue is girlfriend and parents. Even with parents, both of my parents be complaining, you don't be answering your phone. Because I don't like talking on the phone. If we could text about it, let's do that. Now, I was trying to make this into like a 30-minute podcast. I don't know. Again, this podcast is not to be some serious topics all the time. It's just something that should be talked about. And I just feel like we don't talk about that enough. Granted, I'm talking about not talking. But now this does stir up another topic, though, is our parents only had the phones, right? Like landline phones, at least when they were teenagers. And then it started becoming, I don't think cell phones came into like the late 90s, right? So before then, it was you always had to have a landline. Like when my parents was in college, they was talking about the landlines and the friends who had a pager, the friends who had a phone in the car. For me, and my generation, we grew up with the internet. We grew up with cell phones. And I guess one of my concerns is, does cell phones impede on relationships? I think the answer is obviously yes. But when I say relationships, not like once you're in a relationship, but has it impeded on dating? Back in the day, there used to be a certain excitement that you would have, or at least from what my parents explained and people and their friends, there used to be a certain excitement you would have. You gave this girl, or you got this girl number, and you went home, called it, right? There's a certain excitement because you was like, man, we're gonna talk, and you talking all night and everything. Whereas nowadays, and here's the thing, here's the kicker. You can only talk to one person at a time. Whereas nowadays, yeah, even back then you could have got 6 girls' numbers from that party, but you can only talk to one of those girls at one time. Nowadays, if you got 6 different girls' numbers, you can be texting them all at the same time. And I honestly believe that it kind of takes away from the value that a young lady or a young man may have that you're trying to get to know. Because now you're just right there comparing. Oh, this one, he does this. This one, he does that. She does this. She does that. This one doesn't do that. You're comparing them side by side. Even to the point with social media, right? Where we make judgment calls based off of someone's social media. There have been girls that I'm like, oh wow, she's out there. I see everything, 2020, on her page. And then there's other girls that I'm like, oh, she's hallelujah, praise God, Christian all day, every day, yes, hallelujah. And I've made judgment calls. I'm like, I'm not gonna take her out. I'm not gonna take her out, based off of social media and everything. And I think our cellular devices have gotten us away from being able to have real conversations, to make real connections. 9 times out of 10, the people that you go to church with, that you go to school with, that you go to work with, especially if you're active at these places, these are going to be people that you kind of develop something with, a friendship, a vibe, a connection, maybe even a relationship, friends with benefits. But you develop something. But why? It's because you kind of are forced to have to make awkward conversation that potentially leads to a good conversation. But we don't have that with text. I've had some people that I have tried to initiate because I was interested in them, right? A phone call or a video chat. No. And granted, you may say, well, they just wasn't interested in you. And honestly, there was some who wasn't, and then there was some who, like, they said they were, and like they didn't mind hanging out, going out, but they weren't trying to video chat. I'm like, what? You weren't trying to get on the phone? What? Wow, that's crazy. But a good question: when do you get on the phone with someone that you just met? Whether you met them in person or you slid in their DMs, they slid in your DMs. At how many days, how many weeks, how many months, right, does it take for you to pick up the phone or video chat them? I want to know. But I've also realized this trauma has come from, trauma. That's what I'm calling it. The trauma of not wanting to talk on the phone also came from my parents. Both of my parents would force me to talk to my grandparents, my aunts or uncles. They would force me to as a kid. And I'm like, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I'm like, and then my dad, and granted, in the long schemes, it did give me a sense of charisma and talking ability or conversational abilities. But he'd be like, you didn't hear them? You got to pay attention to what they said. They asked you how your day was, and you just said, yes, ma'am. I was like, oh, it was good. I don't know. Maybe that has something to do with it, right? I know a lot of our parents force, still to this day, my mother, God rest her soul, my grandmother, she would be on the phone sometimes with her. And my mom would just come knock on my door and then hand me the phone. Like, it's your granny. I'm like, hey, granny. Because I just was not in the mood for it, And sometimes she did get better with being like, make sure you call your granny. But even then, I would take it for granted and, forget to call her or whatever. Which is an interesting topic, is because, she's passed now. She passed last year. Her and both of my grandmothers passed last year. And it's like, I took for granted a lot of times being able to pick up the phone and call them. And different times it hits because I'm like, dang, I can't even do that. So, I don't know. I'm a little all over the place with this, but I think there's cons and pros to talking on the phone. I know if you was to ask me what I prefer, I don't want to talk on the phone, even when it comes, like when I'm in a relationship, if you need to talk to me on the phone because you're of safety reasons, you're out somewhere, you want to make sure, you're good or whatever, by all means. But I'm also the type of person that I prefer to be hanging out with you instead of we talking on the phone. I've realized there are some people who are fulfilled with talking on the phone with someone. And I'm like, that's great if your cousins or your significant other is like out of town or out of state, like they don't live there or whatever type thing, or y'all live at two different places and y'all kind of like watching a movie together. I've done that. But the matter of like, if you can just come over and we can talk and vibe and do whatever instead of just be on the phone, I prefer the in-person thing. But I've also realized something else. Like I said, because of how my dad raised me, he raised me to kind of be a conversationalist. I am a conversationalist. I didn't realize until I got older that there were a lot of people who aren't. And I'll be trying to make conversations with guys and girls, like bros and girls I was interested in. And it'll be trash. I'm the one that's always trying to come up with something to talk about. I'm the one that's always texting them. Now, granted, that does kind of steer into another conversation as far as, do they really want to be friends? Do you really want a connection? But I'm talking about the ones where the girl would say, man, this conversation is dry. I used to get offended by that. What? The conversation is dry? Until I started realizing some of them would be like, why does this feel like an interview? Oh, that's what it is. You feel like I'm asking you a bunch of questions because you're not asking me anything. How you doing? Good. So what's your name? Okay. What school do you go to? Nice. What do you study? Nice, okay. So what do you want to do with that? Okay. So are you from Atlanta or where do you live? It'll be the same questions. And I'll be trying to figure out, why does she think the conversation is dead? Or I can observe that, yeah, it does feel like an interview. But why? It's because I said, how you doing? You didn't say, I'm good. How are you doing? I said, what school you go to? You didn't say, Spelman. What about you? Right? I say, what's your name? You didn't say Michaela. What's yours? Right? It's like it should be tennis, ping pong, back and forth. And I realized I don't like getting on the phone with everyone because everyone doesn't understand that. That's one thing. Another thing is personality. Right? I realized that before I wanted to take a girl out, I did really wanted to get on the phone, like FaceTime or talk on the phone with her to be able to see if we even have a vibe on the phone. Because there are some girls that our sense of humor, our personalities just didn't click. And I would be made to feel like I'm the lame dude, I'm the square. And then I'm like, but I feel the same about you. Because I'm like, I just said that joke and you didn't laugh. I'm like, I said that joke to someone else, they're cracking up. Then I'm like, it's personality and sense of humor and interest and so much that goes into it. So why am I even getting on the phone with just any and everybody? So, I don't know. I just feel like that's something that should be talked about. We should not force each other to get on the phone if we don't have to. Now, there are certain conversations that we should and need to have on the phone. Even forget a phone that we need to have in person. But if we can text about it, text me. I hate dealing with clients that be like, hey man, I didn't see the email. Hey, did you check your spam? Oh, there it is. Great. Could have texted this, bro. Like, so what do you think? Do you think I'm tripping or do you think I'm on point? Either way, tune in next week for another episode of something that should be talked about. Again, I'm your host, DJ Shabak. If you got something that you want to talk about, please leave it in the comment section. And if you want to be a co-host or if you want to come on the podcast, I don't know what's the word to say it, but if you want to come on the podcast to talk about something, let me know. Shoot me a DM, send me a text. Peace.